Welcome to the Rotary Club of York. We are a people of action committed to service above self and honoring the four-way test. If you haven't already done so, please take a moment to silence your cell phones. Past President Brian Tate will lead us in our opening song, Star Spangled Banner, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. President-elect Glenn Miller will offer the invocation, and Mark Wheeler will introduce our guests.
Thank you, President Jackie. Please join me in our national anthem. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon. Please join me in reflection and prayer. When the end of earthly life comes, every people of every time and place and culture on earth has taught that we should treat what remains of human life with love and care and dignity. We build monuments to memory, and for many of us, we believe that the God who has given life makes our graves holy and sacred. We are thankful this day for the work of our speaker, as she and others have striven to restore the Lebanon cemetery, and in so doing, restore the honor and respect and memory due to its inhabitants. Bless her work and her time among us today, just as that good work blesses our community. Bless also our time together. Let even this brief hour be a reminder to us of how sacred and fleeting life is, and of the importance of living it in community and in service to one another. To you, the Lord of the living and the dead, the one God of many names we pray. Amen.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pleased to have the honor of introducing our guests today. We have a very large list, so appreciate everybody being here. Exciting day. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until President Jackie welcomes you officially at the end through recognition. First guest, Daisha El Larza, guest of Ann Druck. Janique Walker, guest of Fred Walker. We have a number of Student of the Month from York Catholic today through Youth Leadership. The next several folks are related to that. Emily Schlosser, Christopher Gick, Eric Schlosser, Michelle Schlosser, Lawrence Gick, Kathy Hand. Moving forward, Wayne Martin, guest of Matt Falvey. Natalie Dennis, guest of Rebecca Hanlon. John Eister, guest of Julian Tolbert. Elaine Bonneau, guest of Julian Tolbert. Trent Davis. Lily Adjay, guest of Scott Monteith. And we have a number of guests from Austin Shank today from Tidings of Peace School. If you'll stand as well. Joshua Rosario. Caleb Romero. Kirsten Musser. Kimberly Miller. Hannah Shank. Kimberly Pedro. Evelyn Ildefonso. Sherlyn Manzo. Marlene Sixtos. Emily Pedro. Christian Romero. Darnell Williams. John Langell. Nishan Washington. And Israel Warren.
Wow, welcome. It's so great to have all of you with us today and the infamous Kathy Hand. So glad that the legend lives. She's here. We see her in person. It's so great to meet you. Thank you all for being here. We hope that you find this program to be very enlightening and that you will plan to join us again often. Fellow Rotarians, please help me welcome our guests. Be seated. Monday, January 17th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, when we remember and honor the great pastor, activist, humanitarian, and leader in the civil rights movement who believed in using non-violent civil disobedience to advance the movement. Cal Weary will help us set our hearts for this day of remembrance by sharing a portion of Dr. King's iconic "I Have a Dream" speech.
There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until we are granted the citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In this process, gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. No, no, we are satisfied. We are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness, like a mighty stream. I'm not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some have come from arenas, areas where your quest for freedom have left you battered by brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into the oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interpretation and nullification, one day right down in Alabama, little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls and sisters and brothers, and they will have their day. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work beautiful symphonies of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountaintop, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountains of Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill, molehill of Mississippi. Let freedom ring from the mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will all be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty. We are free at last. Thank you.
Thank you, Cal. That was a very, very moving rendition of a portion of Dr. King's speech. And we thank you for readying our hearts for this day on Monday, and for all days to ring out those words true in our hearts, in our minds, and our communities, so that we can live together in harmony. Thank you so much. An email was sent to you last Friday regarding the death of longtime Rotarian Al Hayes. Al was devoted to Rotary and often stated that involvement was the best way to enhance the Rotary experience. Funeral services will be held this Friday, January 14th at 10:30 a.m. at Chestnut Grove United Methodist Church in Dellsburg. Will you now join me in a moment of silence in honor and remembrance of Al? The Rotary Board meets tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. via Zoom. On Wednesday, January 26th, our meeting will be held off-site at Keystone Kids Space, 10 East Hamilton Avenue. Reservations by all members and guests are required to attend. Please contact the Rotary office to register no later than Monday, January 17th. And now I think we'll have some levity. Let's talk about Courtney Bailey. Courtney is a third generation Rotarian. Rotary has always been a part of her life for as long as she can remember. Many of you recall her grandfather, Fred Bailey, who founded Bailey Travel and was a member of our club for over 50 years. A lot of you also know Courtney's dad, John Bailey, who's been a member of the Hanover Club for 45 years. She thinks of Rotary as a great relationship builder, providing the opportunity to meet people she may not have otherwise, who've been great business connections and also great friends. She loves our speakers and values what they share with us and says she continues to learn and grow. Courtney co-chairs the Communications Committee and serves on our board. Truly a dynamo, she's that person who sees a need and finds a way to make it happen. Courtney is a partner in the Bailey family of companies, Bailey Coach, Bailey Automotive Services, Bailey Zero Hazard, born out of the pandemic, which is a disinfecting service provider and distributor of sanitizing solution and equipment. And they've added a fourth company, Bailey Self-Storage, under construction now and set to open in 2022. I don't know what's next, maybe a savings and loan, it's possible. Courtney could be described as fearless, someone who embraces challenge and is definitely strong-willed. She decided when she was 12 years old that she wanted to drive her family car. And she would also often get the keys, get behind the wheel and drive around their property, to which her father constantly reminded her she was too young to drive and this was not a good thing not to do it. But remembering that she's strong-willed, she decided one day to visit her cousin at her farm down the road and not only took the car for a ride, took the car on the road for the first time down the road to the cousin's farm. Later that day, Courtney and her brother were volunteering at the Firemen's Carnival in Gettysburg when a police officer approached and said, "I'm looking for Courtney Bailey, who was seen driving under the age today." And he said, "Oh, I'm Amanda, Courtney's twin sister," to which her brother shouted, "Courtney, you don't have a twin." Courtney started off 2022 in the best way by marrying the love of her life, Dominic Piccolo, in a ceremony on New Year's Eve. Her business partners shared this toast at the reception. "Courtney, you are a well-organized activities director on a cruise ship, sprinkling Excel spreadsheets of fun activities and joy into the lives of the people you surround yourself with." This is a perfect description of Courtney Bailey Piccolo, and we are all the better for having this activities director as a much appreciated and valued member of Rotary. Thank you, Courtney, and congratulations. Our fifth and final recipient of the proceeds from our Love for Community event is Child Care Consultants, which is committed to helping children in low-income working families and paying for childcare and early childhood education programs. I invite Executive Director Rotarian Christy Rangillian to come forward to accept our check for $2,000.
Hello, on behalf of the Board of Directors, staff, and I'm really short, sorry. I used to work at the United Way, and those of you who might remember Bob Woods, just a little bit of difference in our height. It was really somewhat embarrassing sometime. But anyways, on behalf of the board, staff, and most importantly, the families that we serve, thank you very much for this contribution. As you know, this money will go to help what we refer to as Alice families. So those families that are working, but just don't have quite enough money to help them. And specifically, these funds go to the families who are over income and no longer eligible for public assistance. And they may be over income by only $5 a year. And at that point, there's nothing we can do with the public funds. So thank you very much.
And now past President Josh George with some new member inductions.
Thank you, President Jackie. Good afternoon, Rotarians. We had a lot of guests today here. It's great to see a bunch of guests. It's also great to see 5 new members joining our club today. Phil, thank you very much, because as we always talk about it, this is our new thing where I say something and Phil makes fun of me from the podium and from the floor. Phil, this is all about you. And for those who don't know, Phil's our membership chair, so that's why this is all about him. But with that aside, I would like to welcome 5 new members to our club today, and I will try to do this in alphabetical order to be fair to everybody. First up, we have Jared Bean. Jared, you may remember, was a past member of our club, and it's great to have you back, Jared. He is a graduate of Central York High School, and he went to Penn State, where he earned his Bachelor's of Science degree in political science. He works at Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital, where he is the Director of Business Development. His community service includes the Cultural Alliance of York, where he is the chair-elect, the York Ice Hockey Club, where he's a board member, and the Central York Ice Hockey Club, where he is the president. I believe he has his front teeth. His hobbies include boating and all things Penn State, so I'm sure those in the room who are also Penn State grads can commiserate with him on the football season. He is married to Heather, and they have 2 kids, Evan, who is 17, and Lindsay, who is 14, and he was proposed by Kelly Gibson. Ladies and gentlemen, Jared Bean. Next, we have Andy Harold. Andy is a graduate of West York High School, and he went to Dickinson, where he earned his BA in political science and his law degree from the Penn State Dickinson School of Law. And then he went on to George Washington, where he earned his Master of Arts in Legislative Affairs. He is employed as an attorney at Grist, Himes, Herald, and Reynosa. His name is already in the title. And he serves in the Army, where he is a major. His community service includes the Burns Health Education Center, where he's a board member, the York County Bar Foundation, where he's a board member, the York County Veterans Outreach, where he's a board member, and Leadership York, where he's a board member. I believe that's a lot of boards. Do you have time to work? His hobbies include hiking, swimming, and cooking. And for those who live in Spring Garden Township in Ward 4, he is your new township commissioner as of about a week ago. So congratulations, Andy, on that. He is married to Danielle. They have 2 kids, John Edwin, who is 4, and Lewis, who is about 3 months old. And his proposer is Tom Donnelly. Andy Harold. Next, we have Michael Lowe. I'm sure many of you have met Michael. He's been here many times over the last couple of years in his role with York Academy Regional Charter School. He is a graduate of Kennard-Dale High School. He went to Shippensburg, where he earned a Bachelor of Arts in Communications and also an MS in Counseling and College Student Personnel Administration. And he also earned his Doctor of Education from Duquesne. He is, as of 2 days ago, the full-time CEO. He was the acting CEO at York Academy Regional Charter School, and that was just made official a couple nights ago by the Board of Trustees at York Academy. So congratulations on that, Michael. He is a volunteer at York Hospital and has been a volunteer at the park as a park house guide at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And he was also a York Federal Fellowship recipient a couple of years ago. His hobbies include reading, and he's an avid horseman. And he is also a master gardener. So anybody who needs gardening tips, feel free to ask Michael. He will be able to help you out. He may answer the hotline at the Master Gardeners once in a while too. I don't know if you do the hotline, but I'm sure my mom would like that because she's over there too. And his proposer is Denny Bachman. Michael Lowe. All right, next we have Anthony Moore. Anthony is the tall guy. And you may remember Anthony, he spoke here at our club just about a month ago. He is a graduate of Mount Tabor High School, and he earned his Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Information Systems from North Carolina Central University, and earned his MS in Industrial and Systems Engineering from North Carolina A&T University. He is self-employed, where he is the owner of Four Squares Development, the Eden Mandate, and also Fab Group Logistics. His community service includes, he is a board member with Leadership York. He is on the York College YCOSP Advisory Board. He is a Community Advisory Board member for Logos Works. He is a member of the Projects and Facilities Committee for York Affordable Housing Advocates. His hobbies include physical fitness, meditation, reading, travel, and I like this one, business mentoring. Very cool. And he is proposed by Jules Tolbert. Anthony Moore. And last but certainly not least, because your name begins with a W, Fred Walker. Fred went to Strawberry Mansion High School, which is in Philadelphia. And then he went on to earn his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Touro University. He is also self-employed. He is a part owner with Four Squares Development with Anthony and also owns Gandy Development. He is a board member of Better York. He is a board member of One Day at a Time. He's a board member with the York Community Resource Center, as well as the Spanish American Multicultural Center. His hobbies include basketball, music, movies, and traveling. He is married to Dr. Janique Walker, who is affectionately known as Dr. J. So anybody who wants to take her up on the court after the Rotary, have fun with that. They have several kids, Brianna, who's 22, Amaya, who's 13, Frederick, who's 1, and Jaden, I believe, was just born, right? 2 weeks ago. Very cool. Congratulations on that. And he is also proposed by Jules Tolbert. Ladies and gentlemen, Fred Walker. Thank you, members, for proposing new members. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you will continue to do so as we get back to where we were pre-pandemic. We're already on a great trail. Jackie, you're going to have the best year as president in terms of number of new members. And so let's keep it going, and thank you very much.
Welcome to all of our new members. We are so delighted. We know that you're going to make great Rotarians, and as in the great words of Al Hayes, get involved, get involved. That's how you'll really enhance your experience. So welcome all of you. And now Rotarian Tim Staub with our Students of the Month.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm pleased to introduce to you Emily Schlosser and Christopher Gick, our Students of the Month from York Catholic. Emily has decided to go first in the presentation, so I'll introduce her and then I'll introduce Christopher. Emily is the daughter of Eric and Michelle. Her activities at school include stage crew, which happens to be the same activity as Christopher. She's the assistant director of the musical. She's a peer minister with campus ministry, and she's on the field hockey team along with other school activities. She enjoys baking, volunteering, painting, carpentry, and writing. She has a varsity letter in field hockey. She placed second place in the York Catholic Science Fair and came in third place in the County Science Fair. She plans to go to college and study psychology, and after college, become a school psychologist. Emily Schlosser.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Schlosser, and I'm an 11th grader at York Catholic High School. Service has always been an important part of my life, which started when I was young, when I would help my mom with chores around the house. But as I grew older, there were more and more opportunities for me to help others outside of my family. One such opportunity was volunteering at my parish's Vacation Bible School, which is an opportunity for 4-year-olds to 11-year-olds to spend 4 nights learning about their faith in a fun and interactive way. Throughout the event, children build new friendships and strengthen old ones as they play and stay connected with their friends over the summer break. As a core team member, I help plan the games for each day and then teach the games to the children. The day for the children involves games, crafts, songs with hand motions, a reading, and snacks with the children all love. While I'm helping others through this event, this volunteer opportunity actually assists me as well, strengthening my faith and adjusting my perspective. The children I work with are so joyful and eager, it makes me remember that life is not all glum and dreary. Children have a profound faith that most people lose over time, and being surrounded by this childlike joy and faith deepens my trust in God. The friendships made between the volunteers as well as the participants makes this event very memorable, and it always stands out to me as a positive memory, even though I had to sacrifice my time and energy, which is why the rewards far outweigh the sacrifices, which is why I continue to volunteer at Vacation Bible School every year. This experience has taught me that enthusiasm and positivity is contagious and that it only takes one person to change the mood of a group. It has also taught me to be hopeful, patient, and joyful, even in the face of troubles. Working at Vacation Bible School has also taught me that even though these kids are younger than me, they still have emotions and problems, even if sometimes they seem less significant than my own. So often people look down on those who are younger than them because they feel that those who have less experiences have less of a life and therefore fewer worries and problems. But the problems these children face are real, even if they seem miniature to us. Working with the children at Vacation Bible School really helped me to recognize that younger kids are not inferior because of their lack of experience. They still register embarrassments and failure, but they also understand when they succeed. This makes it even more important to be a positive role model to these children because they are always learning new things and new ways to act as they grow into a society that will continue to present them with bigger and bigger problems. While it may take time and energy to positively impact a person's life by volunteering, the rewards are great. Service is a gift that keeps on giving, and those who give it also receive. Thank you for inviting me here today, and thank you for the opportunity to attend RILA this summer. I'm very appreciative.
I just wanted to thank you, Emily, for volunteering to be Vacation Bible School counselor, because my kids have definitely benefited from your guidance there. Christopher is the son of Sheila and Lawrence, or Larry Gick. He is all things band. He plays the alto sax in the jazz band, the jazz combo, the musical pit, the stage crew. Well, he doesn't play saxophone in the stage crew, but he's in the stage crew with Emily. He's also a member of the honor societies. He's a student ambassador. He's in the marching band. He's also the drum major of the marching band. He's in the woodwind ensemble and the German club. As you can imagine, music is a big part of his hobbies, and fixing instruments is also part of his hobbies. Some of his accomplishments, as I alluded to earlier, is that he's a drum major for the York Catholic Marching Band, who finished first in their division in the state. He received honorable mention in the German club, in German in 10th grade. And he's been accepted in the National Honor Society. After high school, he plans to attend college and pursue a degree in chemical engineering or astrophysics. And believe it or not, he wants to be involved in music in college as well. Ladies and gentlemen, Christopher Gick.
Hello, my name is Christopher Gick, and I'm a junior at York Catholic High School. I would like to begin by thanking the Rotary Club of York for giving me this amazing opportunity. Our school stresses the importance of service and the impact it can have on both ourselves and others. There are always people in the world that are in need of food, shelter, money, and clean water. There are also many others who dedicate their lives helping to those in need. Being the youngest of 4 children, I've always seen my siblings getting involved in various activities in the community, and I've witnessed the different services service has made in their lives. Leading after their example, I participate in many extracurricular events that benefit other people, whether it is setting up for elementary school kids for events or getting into school over the summer and helping the teachers. I've also spent my time giving music lessons and volunteering at leg up farms. The most meaningful of these services has been going to assist my teachers over the summer, which I have been doing since before the 7th grade. Teachers and staff work hard to give students a good education and make sure that we are ready for what the future holds, whether it is college or work life. Carrying books, rearranging classrooms, or hauling tables and desks around the school are some of the many ways that I am able to show my appreciation for all that teachers have done for us. With the recent pandemic, service opportunities have been limited. York Catholics switched their service requirements to focus more on our family at home and in school. I made it a focus to assist my family with whatever I could. I wish to continue helping others in order to set a positive example for the future generations so that we can all live in a world where we help and care for each other. Again, thank you for inviting me here today, and I look forward to the Rotary Youth Leadership Conference at Messiah College. Thank you.
Emily and Christopher, you are incredible role models, and our future does look very bright. And we're so grateful that you're dedicated to giving back all that you've learned to others that are coming up and beyond. So we hope you'll come back and join us often and perhaps one day become Rotarians. We're thrilled you're going to attend RILA this summer. Please help me congratulate them again. And now it is my honor to introduce Joan Mummert to introduce our program.
Thank you, President Jackie. And it's my honor to introduce Samantha Sam Dorm today, who will be joining us via Zoom. Interestingly, Sam and I were on a Zoom together yesterday. It's a thing between us. When she professed that during high school, in fact, growing up, she really didn't love history at all. I promise you that after her presentation today, the folks in the room and the folks online won't believe that for one moment. She's caught a history bug, the good bug. But first, a bit of background about Sam. She was born and raised in York and is a proud product of York City schools. She began her professional career in healthcare, but was drawn to work for government through her experiences with a lot of local nonprofits. Since 2010, she's been instrumental in providing grant writing guidance to public safety and nonprofit agencies throughout the United States, as well as providing instruction on statistical compilation, analysis, and program development. She actually began the grants road in 1999 when she was hired by the York County District Attorney's Office. Since that time, she's worked directly with government agencies to acquire over $50 million of funding for various programs. She serves as a reviewer for several federal agencies and also instructs grant writing workshops. Locally, she's incredibly generous with her knowledge. And in fact, if you follow her on Facebook, she's often providing grant opportunities. So do follow her after this program. And she also periodically offers grant writing programs. However, none of those experiences actually prepared Sam for why we're here today. She will share the important discoveries and stories found within Lebanon Cemetery in North York, the final resting place for over 100 of her relatives. It is a place where one will find abolitionists, Underground Railroad conductors, Civil War soldiers, Buffalo soldiers, Tuskegee Airmen, artists, educators, religious leaders, physicians, and many, many more, all together based on the color of their skin. Sam, it's yours.
Thank you, Gick. So we'll wait and see. I think Ben's going to hand over the presentation here for us. If we can just hold on for one moment. And I just want to let folks know that when we were testing out earlier today, I have a few seconds delay with the feed. And so we'll go ahead and jump right in. So if you hear me kind of waiting, my screen might not be exactly where you are today. So we're going to talk a little bit about Lebanon Cemetery, which is in North York. It's the 1400 block of North George Street between 10th and 11th Avenue. And so I have on the screen here that what we're looking at is the evolution of our organization, which is known as the Friends of Lebanon Cemetery. So in April of 2019, a small group of us, dedicated volunteers were able to come together at Lebanon Cemetery and just to help volunteer with the upkeep of the cemetery. In that process, we did find that there's just a very rich history, York County history, York County African-American history that we were uncovering literally. And you'll see some of that in the presentation today. I am going to be very mindful of the time, but I do have the ability to stay on afterwards if people have questions, and also our contact information will be made available for direct follow-up. There was really a sense of urgency for our group in being able to reclaim and preserve the Lebanon Cemetery, these hallowed grounds. We did create a 501c3 that following year. And through our volunteer efforts, we work to uncover history. We are doing research. We are identifying and documenting the people that are interred there at the cemetery. One of the best parts is that we're able to link family members through those cemetery records, and then of course preserving and restoring not just the location, but the stories of the people. So with this, we became a part of what's known as the Pennsylvania Hallowed Grounds. I'm waiting to see if my screen is going to change. As I said, there's a delay. So the PA Hallowed Grounds held a conference. Hang on one moment here. So Ben, I'm not seeing.
I'll take over here.
All right, excellent. I'll just let you know when to go ahead and advance the slides. Thank you. So you can go to the next slide, please. With the PA Hallowed Grounds Network, there was a conference this past fall in which cemeteries from all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania got together, and we were able to kind of share some tips on how we're learning to be good stewards of our cemeteries. We were, well, quite frankly, sometimes the information can be a little bit dry, and I don't do dry. So for the presentation about Lebanon Cemetery, we really wanted to focus on the kind of pitfalls that we've run into in order to get to the rewards. So we put together some information here that I'm sharing because it's not just about Black cemeteries. It's applicable to all cemeteries and applicable to all of our families. So the name of the presentation was Preserving a Cemetery for Zombies, a how-to guide for cemetery preservation, because after hours of research, you too may look like the Walking Dead. And I know folks like Joan understand this because we go down those rabbit holes and, 3 hours later or 2 o'clock in the morning, you're still doing research. Next slide, please. So why was there a need for a Black cemetery? What we have on the screen here is just a little bit of a clipping, and this comes from the 1960s. Yes, I did say the 1960s. At that time, there was a survey done of all of the cemeteries in York County, and specifically asking whether or not anyone that was Negro, anyone that was not Caucasian, was allowed to be buried in their cemeteries. And of course, the answer in the 60s still was no, that according to their charter, that only the Caucasian race could be buried in their cemeteries. So again, this was a survey for all of York County. But this article had some key words that we needed to know and understand. First one being deeds, and the next one being charter. Next slide, please. So with that, of course, this is not anything I had any experience of. So my question, of course, became, well, where is the charter for our cemetery and what does it say? And that would be for any cemetery. Next slide. Looking at terminology, highly recommend that if people are going to start down this process, that you consult an attorney and kind of know what's going on. But with terminology here, just some information about explaining what a charter means, looking for the bylaws, and then highlighted was this word registration, because it said here that generally the documents must accompany the registration of the business whenever the application goes to the Secretary of State. Next slide. So of course, now the question became registration. What registration? Again, we were just looking to take care of the burial grounds of our families. So what we found was here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the agency that regulates cemetery would be the Real Estate Commission. However, and this is the important part, there are no rules in the Commonwealth that govern specific burial or maintenance practices in Pennsylvania. Private for-profit cemeteries fall under the jurisdiction of the Real Estate Commission because they are involved in the buying and selling of deeds. Next slide. So there was a lot for us to learn, and we continue to learn, and we share that information with other organizations, not just here in York County. We are working with some folks outside of the Commonwealth as well. We've received correspondence from people in Maryland, Virginia, even all the way down into Alabama. I personally am starting to work with some family members that I've never met, but as Cal was speaking, I got a little emotional today because of those words that says about that someday the former slaves, the sons of former slaves and the sons of those former slave owners would be able to sit down together in brotherhood. And I've recently been able to connect with family that were on a plantation in Haywood County, Tennessee, and they are looking to preserve the cemetery that has the remains of the then slaves. The slave owners have met with our families, the descendants, and we are working together to preserve that land. So those words today, Cal, were especially meaningful. Next slide. So Lebanon Cemetery, what are some of those rewards? Since 2019 with our group, we have been working to uncover markers. We work in teams to trim the grass if needed. I'm happy to say that things are looking much better there, in part because of some of your members or even community members that have been volunteering with us. We work to confirm who all of the veterans are there, and then researching family connections. Now, when I talk about uncovering markers, I'm specifically talking about the flat markers. I believe they were originally meant to be temporary markers. It almost looks like a cinder block with a nameplate on. So you have a name, a date of birth, and a date of death. Our cemetery is situated on a hill, and we're receiving a lot of damage from water runoff coming down the hill. We have uncovered nearly 700 flat markers since 2019 that we've been able to reset those. Some of them were more than a foot underground, and they now are visible. Next slide. So what do we do with that information when we have them? Every marker, every headstone that we have in our cemetery that is visible, we are putting them into two separate databases, free databases. One, of course, being Find a Grave. The other one is billiongraves.com. The billiongraves.com is GPS recognized. So even as those flat markers are starting to sink again, because we need to do something a little bit more drastic, getting some probably some drainage rock under those, and as I said, do some remediation with that water runoff. Even if those stones are back underground again, we know where they're at because of the GPS coordinates. And then we've also recently received some support through the Powder Mill Foundation, in which we are working on a new cemetery management system. Again, this information will be free of charge to families. Next slide. So the history of Lebanon Cemetery. We started in 1872 with just under 2 acres of land that was purchased for $500 per acre. Our cemetery now is just under 5 acres. So it was purchased in several different parcels. Next slide. Numerous Civil War veterans are interred at Lebanon Cemetery, along with service members who served during the Spanish-American War, as well as other conflicts through the years. There's part of a newspaper clipping here that has the name William Berry, who was one of our Civil War soldiers. The Berry family in the southern part of York County was part of the Underground Railroad. Next slide. This is one of our Civil War soldiers, which is the Reverend Jesse S. Kohl. Reverend Kohl was enslaved down in Virginia. He escaped from his plantation, made his way to Connecticut, took up arms, and he was injured in a conflict back in Virginia, very near to the plantation where his family had been. He died here in York, Pennsylvania in 1897, I believe it was. And what the unique thing that happened with Reverend Kohl and with our group, when we started looking into his story, we found this notice here with the Library of Congress, where in 1871, he was looking for his family. He's looking for his mother named Sarah, and he's looking for his siblings. And it was one of those, oh my God moments, because we knew here at the York County History Center and in working with the archives that we were able to obtain a copy of his will. And in his will, it said, box up my clothing and send to, and it mentioned two of the brothers that were in this notice here with the Library of Congress. Another discovery was that the University of Virginia was actively researching Reverend Kohl at the same time. We were able to connect with them and do a full document exchange between the History Center as well as the University of Virginia. But the best part of this is that we were able to connect the family that is right here in York, Pennsylvania, which would include the Armstrongs, the Wright family, as well as many well-known York names. And we have this information on our website. Next slide. Reverend Kohl's daughter, Etha, I forgot that I slipped this in here. So this gives you an idea of some of the work that we have done when we talk about some of the restoration and preservation. You see the before and after that we are cleaning the stones as well, particularly with the military. If it is for individual families, they can reach out to us on the website, and we do have them sign off that they are interested in having those family stones cleaned, and we will clean them for them. So the picture here with the wreath, this year we were able to participate in the Reeves Across America program for the first time. And oh, what a difference. You can see over a year's time that we were able to bring Reverend Kohl's stone back to, the dignity that it deserves based on his service and just simply based on, being a human being. Next slide, please. So Reverend Kohl's daughter, Etha Kohl Armstrong, in York County, we're very familiar with her story in that she was the first African-American woman to work in a factory here in York County. And years later, she served as the head of the Negro Subcommittee for the Women's Suffrage Movement. And so we often talk about Miss Etha, and rarely do we talk about her husband. So here today, I wanted to bring some of the information of Marion J Armstrong, who was a Pullman porter, but he was very well known with the Elks here in this area. The newspaper clipping title there had him listed as the father of the Brotherly Love Lodge. And he also served on the Community House Board of Directors. The Community House, which was a part of Faith Presbyterian on Duke Street, I believe it was 52 North Duke Street, that is now part of the parking lot. John Kleinitz, I think that might be close to where you guys are. But the Community House was unique in that it was providing services not just to those who were from the African-American community, but the community of York as a whole. We also have here a newspaper clipping that talks about jobs that they were able to pull together through what was known as the People's Forum. And so they were opening a tobacco stripping plant. There's some pictures out there on my site as well in regards to a sewing factory to make sure that we could find jobs for our African-American men and women. Next slide. Roger Ballard, we're just wrapping up here. So with Roger Ballard, the part of his story was that he was the first York City casualty in the Korean War. I believe he was the 4th York County, but the 1st York City, and he was just 19 years old. And for many years, that was the only thing that we knew about Roger Ballard. Next slide. So part of what my team will do is that we're looking for the rest of the story, rounding out people's, who they were, that certainly he was more than just the first person to die during the Korean War. Who was he before the war? And found these articles here when this was the Green Pine Boys Club. And this really struck me because this was from 1947. I was born in 1970. So growing up here in York County, I was under the impression that, Black and white, that there was always like segregated communities, that we really didn't play together, that we didn't interact together. So this struck me as odd that in 1947, you have young Black and white children together. This was at, I believe it's North Queen Street, there where Westminster Playground, Westminster Church is located. But the unique thing about this, the funding for the Green Pine Boys Club was coming from the York Exchange Club. Next slide. So a little bit about some of the collaborations, certainly the York County History Center. We've had a wonderful opportunity to work with Jim McClure and Scott Menges and being able to build out these stories. If anyone is familiar with what is happening with Keystones for our military service men and women, a good bit of our research was utilized in collaboration with Keystones. Next slide. We do provide walking tours, walking history tours at the cemetery. And as we're working on the software build out, some of this information will be made available so that people can essentially do a self-guided tour and pull that information up on their smartphones. So that's what we're working on here in 2022. And last but not least, paved over prominence. This is a project that we're looking at building out. For some folks, it could be a little bit sensitive, but I am a math science person. My brain kind of works in cohorts. And what I started finding through this research was a number of common addresses. And the unique thing for me was that many of those addresses where our prominent Black men and women lived and where they had their businesses here in York County are now parking lots or vacant lots. And it's not just one or two, there are several. So there's a lot that's going on right now with stories about Glen Alvin Goodrich. Certainly we know about the William C. Goodrich home with the Underground Railroad, but right around the corner on Duke Street, in the 100 block of North Duke Street, is where the original AME Zion Church was located, as well as a cemetery, the homes of James Smallwood, the Gray family, also part of the Underground Railroad, and Goodrich also had properties there. It is very possible that the remains of William C. Goodrich's wife and two of his children are under this parking lot on Duke Street. We cannot find any information that says that those bodies were ever disinterred once those properties were sold. So we are working on cataloging that information and hopefully being able to do some historical markers here in the very near future to mark where these individuals who made a significant contribution to York County and York County history, that they are not forgotten. Next slide. So with the Friends of Lebanon Cemetery, we do have a Facebook page. We have a website, which is just friendsoflebanoncemetery.com. Encourage you to reach out. In the spring, we will be back out for the physical restoration efforts. And last but not least, what we plan on doing going into this spring is making sure that we get the flag holders and the military markers set for our veterans. So thank you very much for inviting me today, and I will stick around afterwards for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha, for advancing this critically important work, and we look forward to hearing progress as you continue with your research. Today, Joan Mummert has signed the bookplate on the book on behalf of Samantha Dig by A.S. King, which we will donate to your Catholic high school and ask that you take it with you today. Next week, we will hear from Sully Pinos from the Bloom Empowerment Center. Sully serves as a Director of Business Solutions and Innovation for the York County Economic Alliance. She leads their new Bloom Empowerment Center, which is an initiative of the York County Economic Alliance supported by various stakeholder and community partners that boasts a suite of business support services to launch, grow, and propel small businesses forward. The Empowerment Center will provide resources countywide with a targeted and strategic focus to grow businesses owned by women and individuals of color in our small communities across the county. In closing, our quote today is by Martin Luther King Jr. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? As a reminder, Samantha will stick around on the Zoom call so that you can ask questions. Just come on up to where Ben is. I hope you have a great rest of your week. This meeting is adjourned.